What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the JERRY1 Podcast. This is episode number 26 of the JERRY1 Podcast. You're watching this. Actually, this is one of those special episodes where I'm filming on the day of the release of the episodes. Today is Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. We're into April now, the best month of the year. But the guest for today's show I had a conversation with this person last night, so it's a two-day episode, I should say. But I hope everyone had a great Easter. You know, Jerry1 rolls on, and it's still exciting times. The reason I'm doing it on this Tuesday is to wrap up the ESPN Tournament Challenge Jerry1 2021. Try to wrap that up. Get that out of the way. Put that to bed. Then we gotta talk about fantasy basketball and fantasy hockey playoffs because they are into the semifinals now. We've lost some good teams. We've lost Larry, got upset by Paul. We lost Matt, got beat by his college rival Sam, and we lost Josh, who got upset by an under 500 Matt team. Became the first under 500 team to win a playoff game. That happened in the 2021 playing game. But it's a busy time right now. And then we also got fantasy baseball still in its week 1, 11-day, 2-week matchup. So we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the show. So I'm going to talk about basketball. Then I'm going to bring on our guest, who I'm going to say in a second. Then I'm going to talk about ESPN Tournament Challenge, hockey, and baseball at the end of the show. That's what episode 26 has got in store. And I'm also going to make my predictions that I forgot to do. It's still week 1, but I'm going to make my predictions of the fantasy baseball playoffs and who's going to win it. And I'm going to count myself this time. So it's interesting. But today's guest is on for the second time. It's been over 20 episodes since he's been on. He's back on episode 5. My good college friend, Blake Crawford, is on the podcast. Yes, I had a conversation with Blake last night about his fantasy basketball team as he's in the semifinals, number 1 seed, number 1 scoring team, taking on Sam in the semifinals of basketball. Wow. While he's still, getting the early stages of fantasy baseball. So he's in both those leagues. We're talking about Blake. We're talking about his bracket. And that's what we got in store. So Blake's on the show for a second time. We'll see how he does on Jerry1 True or False. That's episode 26. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Here it is. Episode 26 of the Jerry1 Podcast starts right now. You're going to hear that conversation with me and Blake from last night in just a second. But first, let's talk about the fantasy basketball playoffs. What have we missed? Well, the first round of the playoffs is over, and we've already got an exciting upset. Larry was one game away from being the number one seed, loses to Blake in the last week of the regular season, and now his season is over. And the thing when losing in the first round of the playoffs with Larry and Matt, you don't get to play the last 4 weeks of the season officially. I don't count those games, as most know. I don't count those games. So Larry's done, Matt's done. Sam and Paul pretty much dominated the 2 weeks. I mean, from the get-go, they dominated it. But this is no 6 seed. That's Paul. He's a scary team. He's been hot. He's won 5 in a row, going into the regular season, going back into the regular season. And then there's the Sam team. Finally, he seemed to really put it all together these last 2 weeks, and now he becomes a threat. And he's got a shot against Blake. And on this Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., week 1, day 2 of 14, Sam's got the early lead. And on the other hand, Kyle's finally playing, and he's got the early lead over Paul. Blake and Kyle have been waiting for this. They've been waiting a long time. But are we really surprised that Sam and Kyle have the lead here in the early goings? Because coming into the season, we thought it was Kyle and we thought it was Sam. They were the top 2 seeds last year. And coming in, we thought they would dominate again. And here they are with leads here in the early stages of the semifinals. But it's going to be exciting semifinals. But to really just recap on Matt and Larry's season, it's just disappointing. Larry, you could argue Larry had the team to win it last year. He looked like he was on his way to beating Kyle in that semifinals last year, and really good chance of beating Jack in the finals. And Larry's redemption season ends with a sour note. Matt, on the other hand, had a really good team this year. Just Ron didn't play. Vukovic getting traded. Just so many things factored into Matt's struggles in that first round matchup against Sam. And Sam got the win. Sam definitely wanted this. College rivals, Matt and Sam going at it. It's one of the better rivalries in JERRY1. And Sam gets the win. Sam's first career playoff win, I should say, in this league. And it's the first time we've seen him win a postseason game in JERRY1 Fantasy Sport since his 2018 JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball Finals win over Jack. So that was his first season in JERRY1. So good stuff for Sam to finally get that monkey off his back and get back in the playoff win column. Larry, on the other hand, now falls to 1-2 in this league in the playoffs. Officially, probably could have won a second playoff game last year in the semis against Kyle. It sucks for Larry because it's over. Now he just puts his focus on baseball, and it sucks because this was a really good Larry team. Larry's had 3 really good teams in this league. He's been a way better basketball owner than he is a baseball owner, but it just sucks he hasn't put it all together to get to his first finals. We'll see who goes to their first finals between Blake and Sam. They're going to their first finals between the two of them. That's in JERRY1 Fantasy Basketball. Sam's won a championship, obviously. On the baseball side, I think Blake has never been to a finals in any JERRY1 final. So, and of course, Kyle, just in the second first season got cut short semi. So, trying to get his first finals. And then Paul, the inaugural champion in this league. Paul has not won a JERRY1 championship since the 2018 inaugural fantasy hockey finals. And Paul still has that, that little thing on him, just that he has not won in a 10-man or plus league. This basketball league was a 12-man league. So let's see if Paul can finally prove that he is worthy for, he has the 5 championships, but, 5 championships, 2 of them, 5 championships, 2 of them are a 6-man league, while 3 of them are an 8-man league. So Paul's got to prove himself a little bit. It's just hard to believe that he has to prove himself. He's trying to become the first 6 seed to ever go to a JERRY1 final. So we'll see what happens there. Definitely no 6 seed. But this fantasy basketball, it's going to be, like I said, they're going to take it. They're going to fight to the death. These 4 owners left, because it's been a very tight league, very competitive league. To see teams like Matt and Larry go out in the first round definitely shows that it's tight. And don't know who's going to win. I still don't know who's going to win. I think if Paul can get past Kyle, watch out. I think Paul's got this thing locked up. But don't sleep on Blake and don't sleep on Sam. Never sleep on Sam. Sam's always in the conversation, and here he is again in another fantasy semifinal, and Jerry won. So it's gonna be good. Good stuff. It's only week one, only day two here, so we'll see what happens. That's fantasy basketball. And yeah, so we're gonna talk to Blake. Big conversation about fantasy basketball. Mostly this conversation is about fantasy basketball because Blake is in his first ever playoff game in JERRY1 Fantasy Basketball. So a good conversation. Enjoy it. I talked to him late last night. So here is that conversation with Blake. Today's guest is back on the pod for his second time. It was a 21 episode break from the last time he was on the pod, but he's back on once again. And what a great time. He's in the midst of his first ever fantasy basketball playoffs. He's just getting his third season in fantasy baseball going in the JERRY1 world. My good friend, my good college friend, Blake Crawford. Blake, how's it going?
Who?
Yeah, that's you.
Doing good. Really
Where
good. Really excited about the fantasy basketball right now. Try not to pay too much attention to fantasy baseball at the moment because I feel like if I put too much focus on that, good chance I neglect the basketball and lose the playoffs. So
where are you coming from today, Blake?
I'm in Orlando, Florida right now. Home in my closet.
Very nice. Very well, so yeah. Let's talk about that fantasy basketball team. Before we even talk about like your season and who's done good for your team, we gotta go dive back in the end of December when this thing started with the draft. And I want to hear your initial thoughts when you saw Luka Doncic go number one while you had the second overall pick. What were your initial thoughts?
I was actually in New York at the time. I was at my brother's house. And I told my brother, okay, I'm busy, got this draft. And once I found out I was able to get Giannis, one of the greatest moments in my fantasy life.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, just a little background. And you've been JERRY1. This is your fifth season now. Well, you just started your sixth season. You haven't won a championship in JERRY1. Over in the Kuka Fantasy Football League, you haven't won over there. Double finalist there, but have you ever won a fantasy league outside?
No, I haven't.
Really? So this is huge. You know, your fantasy basketball team. You're in the playoffs. Obviously, you remember last year. You were so good last year. 4 games over 500 wasn't even good enough for the playoffs. That's how tight that league was last year. And now here this year, you come out once again, kind of a slow start, but you really have come on here in the second half. You have a franchise high 8. You won 8 straight games. You get the number 1 seed, and you score the most points for the regular season on the last week of the season after you were worst in scoring for the week 1. So what a difference in 11 weeks to turn around that team. You had the Greek Freak leading you all season long. You're the number 1 seed. You just started your first ever playoff game in this fantasy basketball league against my brother's college friend, Sam Shields. Very good team as well. He was the number 1 seed last year and the year before you were in it. What are your thoughts on this basketball team overall, Blake?
Overall, I have a solid, team. My whole team, everybody has, a standard for, average amount of points they should be scoring. To begin with, beginning of the season, I wasn't scoring many points. I noticed I picked up at least 2 key players, the first 2 weeks that I kept on my team throughout the whole season. That's Harrison Barnes from Sacramento, and then Mikal Bridges from Phoenix. Them two, I picked them up free agency after the draft, and I held on to them. They've done above average for points. So
one guy that did really do well for your team this year, you just recently caught him because of an injury, LaMelo Ball. You draft him in the second round, and the league chatter. I got a little bit of the league chatter. Yeah. I've heard from I won't name on the podcast, some sources saying that is the worst pick in fantasy history, not JERRY1 history, when you took LaMelo in the second round. And he actually turned out to be a really good player for your team. What are your thoughts on all that criticism at the beginning of the season and now to the fact that you ended up having to cut LaMelo? I mean, just what are your thoughts on LaMelo overall this whole year?
Overall, he did a slightly above than what I predicted because like I saw some of the videos of him overseas and stuff, and then knowing that this isn't like the average player coming from college basketball. So, and I was hoping like he would play soon in the season, in the beginning of the season, which it did happen eventually. So, yeah, he's been great. It kind of killed a little bit when he got injured, so I had to release him. But yeah, he did his part.
You were really high on him too. I remember before the drafting started, you're like, I gotta draft this guy.
It's a good feeling, yeah.
Yeah, and I
Could have judged him later, but I said forget it, just do it.
Yeah, and one thing that also was in the league chatter throughout the year was about you, and you were not the only one, but you and your trade offers. You were a big guy wanting to make a trade. You never did make a move. What are your thoughts on not even coming to a trade this year?
I was surprised from the offers I was making. A lot of them were like, you know what? Maybe someone might accidentally press accept and it'll go through. But like usually someone that gives me an offer, I feel like it's somebody who's been playing fantasy and like didn't think I kind of knew what I was doing, so they're trying to lowball me. So I would just lowball back. But it's understandable. I didn't get trade. Um, Overall, I had people that I didn't really want to get rid of for the most part.
Did you ever get any trades offered to you that you might have thought about doing?
Can't recall.
Yeah.
I know there was one with D'Angelo Russell. Like a lot of them were. I think one time I almost said yes, but I just didn't go through with it.
Yeah.
I ended up getting him while he's injured, but then just got rid of him again. So.
I know we've seen it. We've seen it you saw it in fantasy baseball last year. We saw a little bit in football. I mean, how has it been playing with COVID this season, this COVID fantasy basketball season?
I don't think it's been I don't think it had much of an effect on me as some other people in the teams. Like, I maybe had like one or two people like at a time with COVID, or maybe one. But there's been other people in the league who had it worse than me.
Yeah, I was affected a little bit. I had this Kyle Anderson for the Grizzlies. I know the Grizzlies didn't play for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And but he wasn't like like Ja Morant or someone like that, or someone who's
Towns took the season off basically. Like
yeah. And it's been tough for some teams. One team that's actually been affected a little bit is actually I can't remember who it was, but it's been tough for some teams, but this team though of yours, it's very good. I will admit it's been very good, and you come on. I don't know if you've noticed this, but you kind of struggle in the beginning, and you just really come on in the second half, like you did that last year as well. You just weren't good enough for the playoffs, and now this year you've won 8 straight games. You went perfect in the second half. What is it about? Is it because like when like in football they intertwine with basketball at the beginning typically, and now here in baseball it intertwines with basketball? Is it because you're so focused on your current league that you're trying to finish? Is that why you come on strong?
That's possibly a thing, but also I think it is just I believe like the teams that always do good like in that league, they spend the time looking like free agency every so often, and then like reading some articles at ESPN or Google online, injury reports and stuff. So I think it's people who are actually like more active and doing the research, like get pickups. Like I just like what is it called, the center for Portland, I picked him up and he's like averaging above like 20 points now.
Yeah, I was looking at your team today and I saw he's your third best scorer on your team.
Yeah, exactly. He he started season as a second like starter. Yeah, he used to be on the bench due to an injury. He got promoted. I picked him up. What was it? Andrew Wiggins. I did try to trade him. I tried to trade him a lot, and then like I held on to him because I was like, okay, end of the season, they might not look like they're going to playoffs, so Steph Curry might take a seat, or relax a little bit. Then more points for Wiggins. It looked like it started when he got injured. last week or so. Wiggins was showing up. But yeah, be an active free agency. Just pick up some people like what's his name, Prodo or something from San Antonio Spurs, the center.
Yep.
Once Aldridge was released, I picked him up and he's been producing well too, above 20 points per game.
Yeah, and you've always been, you and my cousin Kyle, Phone Slaps team, have been very big, active with pickups this year. But now, as you trans over to the playoffs, it's a 14-day matchup, but it's still 7 maximum for pickups for all 14 days. How do you play that? I see you've made one move already this matchup against Sam.
Yes, I messed up. I should have did it last week, like Sunday morning, the latest.
Yeah, that's the thing with having a bye is you still get those 7 pickups.
Yeah. So what I did was picked up the was it Houston, the center for Houston at the moment while Wood is injured. But yeah, so I picked him up and I looked at my schedule for the next week and I made my adjustments in my lineup and I saw that I'm able to get somebody at any position. So I had the utility slot open throughout the whole week. So it didn't matter who I picked up, any position. I know I'll be able to play him, no conflicts.
Yeah, so I see here you picked up Kelly Olynyk of Houston and dropped D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah. He's scoring the points right now, and this is the it's crunch time playoffs, and you can't really hold on to people and hope they're gonna perform after the season, so making cuts and picking up who's producing right now. And
yeah, I mean, so you're playing Sam. Sam's just playing he just won his first ever playoff game in this league. You're playing in your first ever playoff game. The only other time you made a JERRY1 playoffs was baseball, your very first year, where you were the 1 seed that season as well, and you lost to yours truly over here. But I've beaten you a couple of times in the playoffs, whether it's the QCA or the JERRY1 leagues. But you're still fighting for that first championship, and as you said, first ever fantasy title, and you're always a threat. You've been a threat since you joined JERRY1. What is the mindset of this team going into the semifinals for these next 2 weeks?
Just I keep on reminding myself, okay, well, we have 2 weeks, don't rush it, and also don't make no rational decisions basically on players. If someone's having a bad game, don't drop them, pick somebody else. Right at the moment, I only have 2 people on short leashes. That's McDaniels from Minnesota, and then the guy from Houston I just picked up.
Yep. Olynyk, yep. So can you confirm that when this fantasy basketball league started that you bought the NBA League Pass package?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I bought the package and one of the main reasons was like, okay, kind of want to see LaMelo Ball play. That was one of the reasons why, but also the Knicks, and yeah, I still have it. I have grown to like basketball a lot more just because I'm playing fantasy basketball.
Mm-hmm. So, will you buy MLB Extra Innings? Is the next question.
I actually have the free package or something from.
Yeah, that's a free preview right now. I think for the rest of the week.
No, it's T-Mobile actually.
Oh, really?
They have I'm able to download it, so I have it. I was just watching the Mets game, the beginning of it, through my phone. I haven't tried it on my computer yet, but I'm gonna try it later on, see if I can do that. But yeah, I know T-Mobile is having a special. If you go through them, you can have the app and stuff, watch games.
So you're liking the feeling of this fantasy basketball team, is what I'm saying. I mean, we've seen. Are you nervous at all that you saw like a team like Larry, who you were fighting out for the #1 seed the last week of the regular season?
Yeah.
And he's already out of the playoffs. Got beat by a very good Paul team, red hot Paul team. He's won this league before. Does that make you nervous a little bit that the upsets have already started?
I feel a little bit more relieved that like who I'm facing this week than whoever the second seed is facing this week, because I saw their team as in a harder streak, like scored a lot more points. I'm like, okay, well, it's still not good. You know what I mean? Like they're all good teams.
This team you're playing right now in Sam, he's been good, this is definitely one of his more down teams, but he still made a run. He still made the playoffs, and he's here. And he played well last week. It was probably one of the best 2 weeks he's put together this entire season last week. This last round, he beat my brother. So, I mean, there's that. But, you also don't have an actual official playoff win in Jerry1 Fantasy Sports either. So there's that as well. So you got to get over the hump of that. And, we'll see what happens, I guess, these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so like right now, today's the first day for this round, and like right now I only have 70 points. Was it Sam has 109 points at the moment. I'm looking at it right now, and I still have a few players playing tonight. Yeah, so
obviously the goal is to get that lead by the end of week 1, right?
Yeah.
What would be like a nervous zone, like to be down? Say you were down like 150. Would you be nervous after week 1 being down 150?
Well, yeah, there's still be doubt. Like, okay, well, let's see what's happening. Like, who wasn't able to play, or I just have people who are in the slumps not playing well. Do I need to make some moves? Switch out with the next hottest player at the moment. So yeah, you don't never want to be down 150 points. Like right now, like basketball, like in baseball, I'm down at the moment, but it's a whole different fantasy game. Compared to basketball, you can score like 150 points in one day in basketball.
Yep, you definitely could. And
at the same time, your opponent can as well. So
yeah. I will say that even though you came out on top in week 12 there, I mean, you did come out on top. That matchup against Larry that last week of the regular season was insane. The two of you were when you both dominated. I remember one night was like 180. It was insane. You guys were so close, and you pulled out the win. And you're still playing. You got a nice bye, and Larry is out, and that's starts a pretty good playoffs. But before we talk, what's that?
Just shows that like during the season, like it looks like you're gonna win it. You just don't take no weeks off because you can be ranked, like second or third throughout the season. Then at the last minute, ranked like 5th or something.
Yeah.
Your ranking.
Before we talk about your fantasy baseball team so far, let's talk about the ESPN Tournament Challenge bracket a little bit. Now, here's the thing, the national championship on this Monday night that we're recording, the national championship is just starting right now, and you still have the winner, and you're the Panda Express bracket. You're actually tied for 5th, which is really good. The only problem is only top 3 get into the money, and you're the tied for 4th in Gonzaga brackets, which means you've been officially eliminated from the money because of Gonzaga. And right now it's 9-0 Baylor. How about that in the national championship right now? But you had Gonzaga Baylor in your finals. You actually predicted that. That's why you're up there. In Michigan and Illinois, 9-0 Baylor as we speak. 17-29 going to first half. But just talk about picking Gonzaga.
Oh, never heard of the team before the season started. Like before this, like I signed up, but like I told you before I started recording, like I forgot like to pick my teams, whatever. So this is all ESPN. They put in my picks.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
So like I'm tied for 5th, but like it's not really me. It's ESPN picks. I have them winning. Also at Baylor for the one losing, so it was pretty cool to have both teams in there. I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty neat. Like out of like 71 people tied for 5th. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, now I see your bracket. It's every higher seed ESPN, I guess ESPN picks every higher seed. So, my mom did the same thing. She's in this. She has Baylor, but she did the same thing. ESPN didn't pick her. She just went for it. So that's why you guys are tied. But next year you're gonna fill out your own bracket. You're gonna enjoy it. But
like I don't really watch college basketball. Like I don't know much about it. So I see the bracket. I'm like, I don't know who these teams are. I'm like, okay,
and clearly, picking the higher seed anyway, it's worked out to be a decent bracket. Not enough for the money, but actually worked out to be a really good bracket. So, but
usually I try to pick Syracuse to win it all. It's because I'm upstate New York. So
yeah. And it's 9-0. 9-0 Baylor. Any picks? Well, people watch this the day later, but any picks who's gonna win, Gonzaga or Baylor?
Yeah, Gonzaga. Yeah,
I think Gonzaga's gonna figure it out too. But
yeah.
all right, let's talk about this baseball team. So now, I said this early in the show. Your fantasy basketball team, you were last in scoring the first week there. Baseball, you're last in scoring going into this Monday. Long week to go still. It's an 11-day matchup. But you had the third overall pick, another high pick in a JERRY1 league. How about that? Mookie Betts went first to Paul, and then Garrett Cole went second to my cousin Jack. And you had the third pick. You mentioned it before the show that you were interested in Bieber because you liked him last year.
Yeah, I really wanted him. Then I just didn't pick him.
And then you took Jacob deGrom. How about that? So what are your thoughts on?
I know.
What are your thoughts on taking deGrom?
It's like I had him before. He didn't produce as well, but I just stuck with him. I believe in him. I think he's gonna do good. Also got Syndergaard, picked him up. Hopefully he comes second half of the season, if anything. But yeah, I became to grow into a Mets fan, so I'm like, okay, well, it's good to have some Mets players. So
yeah, not bad. That's not a bad team. They got an owner now that likes to spend money. They brought in Lindor. They got a really good team. But one guy I see on your team who's back on your team, third baseman for the Chicago Cubs, Chris Bryant. You had him your first year.
Yep.
Then you had him last year, but you caught him. I saw at the end of last season, and now you brought him back. He had a home run the first series against my Pirates. What are your thoughts on bringing Chris back? You can correct me, but I think that's the only player you've had every season.
I did have Pete Alonso before.
Did you
have Pete him all 3 seasons?
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But yeah, I think Chris Bryant's the only one I had for all 3 seasons. I saw him later in the draft than I thought it was gonna be, so I picked him, like 99th overall pick.
Yeah.
It was a 9th round, so I was like, that's a steal. I feel like it was a steal when I was drafting him. So picked him. I feel like he can bounce back from having like a down year, and he's been good so far. Like he scored like good amount of points this past game. Like, yeah, 13 points already from he played on the 3rd and 4th. So
can you believe it's your 3rd year in this baseball league now?
I went pretty fast. I actually thought it was like a 2nd season. It's just, time flies.
Yeah, well, we can cross off that 2nd season because that 2nd season was very short. No, I was even in the playoffs, and I still don't really remember that league, that season. Yeah. That was so short. But I said earlier in the show, you were a 1 seed. You started 0-3 that season, and you went all the way to the number 1 seed. You were the 1 seed, but you lost. What are your thoughts on this team? You think you can you bounce back, get back in the playoffs? There are 6 playoff teams this year. You confident?
I put in the time and effort. I believe I can. I just like the first few weeks, make adjustments on like people who are on free agency, who's performing, and then pick them up. Like I know I made a move today. I picked up Ryan Weathers from starting pitcher from San Diego. I picked him up. I feel like there's something there, But yeah, I was looking around. I don't play with catchers. Only if I find one that's producing very well,
You're not gonna, I see you don't have a catcher. You're not gonna pick one up.
If it's worth it, you know what I mean. Like right now, it's probably if there's a catcher that's worth picking up.
It is. I will say it is a very down position. There really isn't a lot of good catchers in the league.
Yeah. If I can find a catcher that also plays first base or designated hitter, then maybe. But At the moment, no. Yeah, I already have a few players.
One thing that
injured.
did hurt your team tonight, I see Kevin Biggio got 10 points on your bench. That was
Yeah.
it's
I gave him
the
the day off.
it's the right move. He hasn't had a positive night all season long yet, and he goes off with 10 points tonight. So I mean, it's the right move.
Yeah,
But
so I decided to give him a night off. -3 points, -1, then broke even yesterday, whatever. And today just 10 points out of nowhere. So kick my butt for that one. But I held on to him. But yeah. He's going back into the lineup.
And one thing, last year you got off to a slow start as you typically do, but it was only a 7-week regular season, and it just it was not enough room for you to come back. This is an 18-week regular season. Even if you get off to a slow start, you're focused on basketball, whatnot. You got plenty of time to come back in this season. And, it's funny you're playing Paul, who was first in scoring going into today. But look at your team, though. Look at your team, though. Right now, live on this Monday night, 9:30, East Coast. You're up 55-12, and you're still down, but you're right back in that game. You got the whole week, rest of the week, you can still pull out a win. So, we'll see.
Doing pretty good. I'm pretty sure that I think he's scoring more than anybody else in the league at the moment for this week.
And it looks like he got 5 extra points coming from DeGrom right now, too. He's in line for the win, so that'll be 5 more points for him. So that'll be a pretty great first game right there. 25 points. 20 points still good.
Athletics, it looks like the game is postponed, I think. Unless it's still happening.
No,
I have
it says it's supposed to start.
Montez playing tonight.
Yeah. Long season. Focus on basketball right now, but don't forget about the baseball team. But Blake, it's come to that point of the show. Anybody who comes on my show for a second time plays my new game called JERRY1 True or False. It is 5 statements about your 6 seasons now in fantasy baseball and basketball in JERRY1, from easier to harder. You start with 100 points. I will first say the statement about your team. You will say how much you want to wager on the confidence of your answer. And you'll say true or false. And you either get the points or lose the points on how much you wager. Most you can win is 3,200 points if you kept doubling every single time. The top score right now is 1,200 points. To crack the top 5, all you need is 1 point. And the last score, obviously, is 0 points. Because if you do get down to 0 in this game, the next statement is only worth 1 point. So wager wisely. Blake, are you ready to play? Any questions?
All right, so these are true or false, right?
Yes. I'm going to say a statement about your team, and all you got to say is how much you want to wager, and then true or false.
So somebody has 1 point from true or false, or?
Yes. So they got down to 0. They got one wrong. Wagered all, went down to 0. Then the next one's worth 1. There's been a couple zeros. There's been a couple zeros who have gotten wrong, wagered it all, and lost. But all right, you ready to play?
I'm kind of nervous.
You ready to play? All right, here we go. Okay, do not overthink on these first couple. The last 3 are the ones that are going to be the guessers. But here we go. First statement about Blake. Fantasy baseball. You have made a fantasy baseball playoffs. True or false?
True.
And how much would you like to wager? You have 100 points.
Max amount of points.
Okay, so 100. And you say true. And the answer is, it is true. Yes, that is correct. You've made the baseball playoffs once back in 2019, your first season in JERRY1. You're up to 200 points. So now you can wager the 200. Or you can wager anything in between the 200. Here we go. Second statement. You are playing in your first ever fantasy basketball playoffs right now. True or false?
Hold on.
Don't overthink them.
Yeah, it's true. This is my first time being in the playoffs in fantasy basketball. I'm betting a max amount of points.
And that is correct. Yes, you are in your first ever fantasy basketball playoff. That is correct. You're up to 400 points. Okay, so now here's where they get good. We got you up to 400, so now let's play the game. Final three questions here. Final three statements. All right, here we go. Statement 3. Your record was 12-5 during the regular season of the 2019 fantasy baseball playoffs or the fantasy baseball regular season when you were the number 1 seed. You were 12-5. Oh, wait, hold on. Not 12-5. Hold on a second. We gotta fix the question here. Fix the question. Okay. Official question. You were 12-6. 12-6, 18-week regular season. Were you 12-6 during that baseball season? True or false?
I'm gonna say true for max amount of points.
12-6. True or false? That's false. He raises all his points. And I'm sorry, Blake, but this is incorrect. It is false. You were actually 13-5.
Okay.
You know what? I was messing with the question a little bit. I messed up with the question. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take away half your points. It's my game. I come up with the rules. I'm going to take away half your points. You're at 200 because I messed it up. I was actually looking at the answer and not the question, so I messed it up a little bit. So you were actually 13-5, but you lose half your points because you got the question wrong. Okay, here we go. So you have 200 points. Next statement.
All right.
It took you 28 total games in fantasy basketball to win your 20th career game. Tough question. True or false? Did it take you 28 total games? So that means, were you 20-8 when you won your 20th game? 2 seasons of fantasy basketball, so there's not a lot of data there. I'll give you this. It was a 16-week regular season last year, missed the playoffs, and now you've played 12 weeks. So here's the fun fact. That's 28 games. Do you have 20 career wins? Did you get it in the 20th? Do you have 20 career wins?
Yeah. I'm gonna say true for 50 points.
50 points true, and that is correct. Yes, you are. Since you are on an 8-game winning streak, that was your 20th career win at the end of this regular season. It's your last game you played against Larry. So it took you 28 games to win 20 career games in basketball, which is the 4th fastest 20 career wins. How about that? So 50 points, you're up to 250. Final statement. Here we go. 5th statement, hardest statement of the night. So in the fantasy basketball regular season, you've been great in the second half of the regular season. Are you 14-0 in the second half of the regular season in basketball? True or false? 14-0. You've been pretty good.
I'm gonna say yes, true, for max amount of points.
True, max amount of points. And I'm so sorry, Blake. I'm so sorry. It is false. You were actually 13-1 in the second half of the regular season. Not 14-0, but hey, you played a great game. Do you have any idea who the one person is beating you in the second half of fantasy basketball regular season? Any idea?
Is it Sam?
It is not Sam. It is Kurt, the other trading guy. He loves to trade the D'Angelo Russell guy before you swoop him up. But forget what week it was. Last season, week 11 last season. It's the only time that you've lost in a second half of a regular season basketball. So that is pretty impressive stuff. So 13-1, not 14-0, but that's why it's the 5th statement. That's why it's hard. But yeah, I do end with 0, but I appreciate you playing. But before I get you out of here, Blake, fantasy basketball, the playoffs are here. You're finally here. You had your bye. I probably asked you this at the end of the last pod you were on, but what would it mean to win a championship in this basketball season this year? A very tight basketball season.
if I win, I'm gonna, it's gonna be something to be happy about. I feel like it's well earned, especially with the teams that we're playing against.
Yeah.
With the winnings, if I do win, like I am gonna buy. If I do win, I would buy a championship belt. I would actually buy a JERRY1 Fantasy Basketball Championship belt.
That would be pretty sick. But this is a 4-week journey though. It's just starting today. You got 4 weeks to put together. You're going to be playing for 4 weeks. There is a third place game, so you got 4 more weeks of fantasy basketball left in you. We'll see what happens. We'll see if you get any part of the money. See if you can at least get your money back. But it's really good teams. You've always been there, whether it's Cuca College fantasy football, whether it's fantasy baseball or basketball, you've always been there. You're always in the mix. You're off to a great start to your Jerry1 career. And I wish you the best of luck in this basketball playoffs. It's going to be fun.
Thank you.
Well, Blake, like I said, I wish you the best of luck. I appreciate you coming on the pod for a second time. We'll probably get you down. We'll probably get you on later down the baseball season again. Or maybe, we'll get you on quick here and we'll talk about your championship in fantasy basketball. But Blake, I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank Blake for coming on. It was great to talk to him, great to catch up with him. And, I wish him the best of luck. I wish everyone the best of luck in the fantasy basketball hockey playoffs, but I wish Blake the best of luck. You had Sam trying to get that first official playoff win. But let's talk about the ESPN Tournament Challenge. Let's put this to bed. JERRY1 2021 is in the books, as you see. Jack Burgmaster, which is Jeremy, who helped set up this group. Obviously, you guys know Jeremy. Jeremy's girlfriend Nina's brothers, whose name is Tyler, and his friend Jack Burgmaster won the JERRY1 2020 Tournament Challenge. Well deserved. He dominated his way. Picking Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16 is impressive stuff. How does one know that? A 15th seed, and then he predicts Baylor over Gonzaga in the championship. So he played tremendous. He definitely had the best bracket. There's no doubt about that. He's well deserved. He won the 70% of the pot, which is $497. Shout out to him. He very nice kid. Gave me back 50s for setting up the group. I appreciate that. You got my respect. And so my parents actually, so Matt didn't defend his title, but my parents find themselves not empty-handed in the top 3. My mom, predicted all favorites until the end when she put Baylor over Gonzaga. So how about that? Worked out that way. Just the opposite of Blake's bracket, who was the top JERRY1 guy. He had the same exact bracket because ESPN filled it out for him. And Gonzaga had it over Baylor. So one difference between my mom and Blake's bracket. So, and that was it. And got my mom in the money. And and my dad gets third, picking Baylor as well. So all the Baylor people up there, the only one that, the Baylor people. So there was 6 Baylor people. That's kind of surprising. Only 6 Baylor people at 71. Mike Wood, shout out, finished just below my dad. Brad Bosley and Jamie Davidson all picked Baylor. Brett was in the top 5 as well as Mike Wood. And then, of course, Mike Wood was 4th, Brett Bosley 5th, and then Jamie Davidson actually tied for 9th. So, I mean, it's still good stuff, good bracket, but, Baylor winning it all, it definitely helped. And the Baylor Bears beat Gonzaga in the national championship last night. I was talking, heard in the conversation with Blake, that it was only 9-0 at the time. And they dominated their way to a championship. And I actually have my parents' constellation money right here. Yep, did that awkward handoff to them. But there are rumors that they might give me $71. So they're good parents. So we'll see what happens when I go downstairs and give them this money. But that is both their money. So I just gave Jack his money. So the money's out. The money is out there. I do not have it anymore. Even though it's technically right there, but I do not have it anymore. My bracket was a piece of shit. Definitely disappointing for guys like Dave Perrell. So close. He could have won the 497. And of course, Rodney Jester III could have won the 142, which my mom won, which was 20% of the pot, 142. And then Tyler Weslowski, Nina, Jeremy's girlfriend Nina's brother, who's friends with Jack Burgmaster, Could have won the 10% of the pot, the $71 that my dad won. So, disappointing for them. Blake, like I said, dominated his, ESPN filled out for him. He ended up becoming the best JERRY1 owner. Guys like shout out Larry was in the conversation for a little bit there. Pat Russo's friend Austin was in the conversation for a little bit there. Ryan Armstrong, Rob Armstrong early on, Zach Rattrey early on, some guys early on. I'm forgetting someone. Jeremy, Michigan could have done some. The Illinois people went out early. Shout out Kyle's girlfriend, Annie Weinerberg. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But shout out Kyle's girlfriend, Annie. She could have, if Houston would have won it all, she would have won it. So, some of these people, they hung around for a little bit. The Syracuse people, they made it to the Sweet 16. They predicted that. Alicia Fredeberg had USC and Gonzaga. And she had USC and Michigan in her Final Four. So close to that. But, shout out to her. Pat Russo finished last. Gotta throw him under the bus. Finished 70th place, second last JERRY1 owner. 400 points. Picked Iowa to win it, huh? And then, of course, Tom, JERRY1 former owner, Tom's friend, Chris Stack, came in last place, 360, 71st place. But shout out Paul, who came in last place last time. Did tie for 51st with Kyle. 650 points after predicting Illinois, while Kyle predicted Gonzaga. Like I said, only 6 people predicted Baylor, so that's pretty exciting stuff. Jack, shout out Jack Burgmaster, not Jack Drew. Jack Drew actually played well. He was let's give Jack a shout. Tied for 30th with Jeremy and Luke Ruddy. 790. Luke and Jack Drew predicted Illinois, while Jeremy predicted Michigan. 90 points. But it's Jack Burgmaster who wins the Baylor and wins the second ever bracket challenge JERRY1. JERRY1 2020 ESPN Tournament Challenge. Jack Burgmaster, your winner. My parents, second and third. So how about that? Police still coming out with some money. Police don't go empty-handed in this, I guess. And shout out Jack Burgmaster. Congrats on winning the second ever bracket challenge. We'll see if he comes back and defends his title. And that's it for the ESPN Tournament Challenge. Let's put that to bed. That's it for that. We'll talk about it, next year. So moving on to the fantasy hockey playoffs. What an exciting playing game. It was back and forth, thrilling playing game, but it was Matt, the 5 seed, who ultimately beat the 4 seed Josh in the playing game. Matt playing his first ever playoff game in this league in 4 seasons. Josh now 0-3 all time in the playoffs. That's a problem, and now Matt here still under 500, 5-6, has found himself in the semifinals against a very good Justin Kiefer team. Justin Kiefer thought he was going to play Josh because Josh was the only team to beat Justin Kiefer in the regular season. So, but it's not. It's Matt who's now playing with the big boys. I mean, you could talk about Justin Kiefer playing the under 500 Matt, but obviously the headline of this entire semifinals is the big matchup between Nate and Paul, the only 2 former champions in his league. Paul, the inaugural champion, never lost in the playoffs at fantasy hockey officially. And then, of course, you got Nate, who's the last champion that we've seen in this league. So, going to be exciting stuff. Right now, Matt Felice up early here on this Tuesday morning. And then Nate up early. They're both got 10-point leads. Matt 24-14, Nate 23-13. So it's going to be some exciting fantasy hockey. I think Nate versus Paul could potentially be the greatest fantasy hockey game that we've seen thus far. It's going to be exciting stuff. I think a key factor to look out for is the goalie. Will the goalie strategy work? Right now, Nate's still without goalies. Paul still with goalies. Matt with 1 goalie. Justin Kiefer with no goalies. So we'll see what the goalie strategy does in the playoff format. Obviously, you got to remember in fantasy basketball and hockey, it's still just 7 maximum pickups for the 14 days. So that always plays a factor. So I think this is going to be interesting, fantasy hockey. I think we saw a really thrilling playing game. We saw a really thrilling playing game last year where Justin Kiefer beat Jack by 1 point. So we'll see what happens here. I think we've had an exciting lead for being a short season. And I don't know who's going to win. I am putting my money. I know Justin Kiefer is going to probably record this, videotape this, whatnot. I'm putting my money on Paul. He's the regular season scoring champ. I think he's got it. I know he's behind early here in Nate, but if Nate won, I would not be surprised. But wouldn't you want to see a Nate Justin Kiefer finals? That would be pretty exciting stuff too. Paul Justin Kiefer and whatnot. But here's Matt, 5-6, trying to spoil the party. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited about fantasy hockey. So definitely disappointed that I didn't make the fantasy basketball or hockey playoffs, but very excited to see that we're still getting some good action. But last thing on the schedule for episode 26 is the JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball League. We're still in week 1. I'm not going to really dive into all the matchup because it's only been 5 days. So, but a couple early leads, just me over Johnny early, Sam over Josh early. Larry got a 1-point lead over Fletch early. Paul's got a nice lead over Blake early. We talked about that a little bit. And Kurt's got the lead over Matt early. And Jack's got the lead over Andrew early. And shout out Andrew. Andrew did finally respond. He's aware of the baseball team. He did apologize for missing the draft. Appreciate that. Andrew's going to try to fix around this fantasy baseball team. So that's good news. So the reason I really brought you on is about my fantasy baseball predictions. It is still week 1. I am going to draw myself a little bracket here. You're going to see it out on the screen here. Obviously, there's 6 playoff teams this year, so that's a little different. I'm going to tell you who the number 1 seed. So I said last time I did these predictions, I wouldn't put myself in, but I'm going to put myself in because that's realistic. And I'm going to give myself the number 2 seed. How about that? I'm going to be the number 2 seed in this playoff. I think I got a really good team. I like my team. I've never missed the playoffs in this league. Only league to do that. I had that in basketball, but I lost it this year. So let's see. Who's going to be the number 1 seed? I'm going to go number 1 seed. I think Paul gets it back. Paul will get it back. He'll be the number 1 seed going into this year's playoff because there's a lot that he's playing for this year. The JERRY1 Grand Slam, just to win a championship after coming so close last year as an undefeated team. I think Paul and me get the buys. Paul gets the 1, I get the 2. Number 3 seed, that's going to be on my side. I think it's going to be Kurt. Kurt has played well. He's been the regular season scoring champion. Last year he got his first regular season scoring championship in 7 weeks, whatever it was. It was 7 weeks, but it wasn't a lot of weeks to determine that. But he still was the top scoring team in those 7 weeks. He's been to the playoffs a couple of times. Still into that first playoff win in this league, and he won the consolation tournament last year. So a lot of momentum coming into this season for Kurt. I got Kurt the number 3 seed. Number 4 seed, on the other hand, I think it's going to be Johnny. Johnny will still figure out this team. Yeah, he missed the draft. Yeah, he did all this thing, but he's still the defending champ. He'll still find a way. He's never missed the playoffs either. He's going to find his way into the playoffs, and he's going to have a great first-round matchup because he's going to be playing Sam. Sam's going to make the playoffs. I like the Sam team. I think he's going to find himself. He's never missed a JERRY1 playoffs, so how can I take him out of the conversation? It's going to be a hell of a great first game between Johnny and Sam. That's where I got that. On the other hand, Kurt, who's he going to be playing? I'm going to surprise you a little bit. Let's get a little surprise in the mix. I'm going to go with Fletcher. Fletcher Reese is going to make the playoffs this year. I think he's going to find his way in as a 6 seed. I think it's going to be exciting stuff because Fletcher has not made a JERRY1 playoff since the 2017 fantasy football playoffs. So I think he's got it in the bag. He's a very well baseball knowledge guy. I think he finds himself in the playoffs as the number 6 seed playing Kurt. How's the playoffs going to shape up? Well, here's how it's going to shape up. I got Sam upsetting Johnny in the first round, and I have Kurt finally getting that first playoff win in the first round. So it sets up a Paul, Sam, me, Kurt semifinals, and I think this is what the people want. I think Sam's going to upset Paul, back-to-back upsets for Sam, and I'm going to beat Kurt. And then it's going to be the 2018 inaugural champion versus the 2019 champion, 2 former champions in the finals between me and Sam. And I really do like my team, but I think I'm going to fall short in this. I think Sam is going to win it all this year. Bring it back. I don't know if he's going to win the fantasy basketball championship, but I think he's going to win the baseball one this year. Your 2021 JERRY1 Fantasy Baseball Champion is going to be Sam over yours truly. So that's it for baseball. We'll talk a little bit more as the season goes on. We'll try to get some baseball owners on this show. yeah, it's some good exciting stuff. Baseball, you got to put in perspective that, you go from, it's pretty similar to the basketball league. It's 12 teams, 9 similar teams. The only 3 difference, basketball had Justin Hillwell, the 2 Justins, Justin Hillwell, Justin Kiefer, and Kyle, who are not baseball guys. So we sub them in with Johnny, Fletcher, and Andrew. So it's a couple football guys, and Johnny's just a strictly baseball guy. So we flip those guys in. Those are the baseball guys, and take out the just basketball guys. Justin Kiefer is really just a hockey guy, but he's really developed into a basketball guy as well. Not much is baseball, so that's why he's not really in it. Maybe down the line, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, that's it for the show. I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. I hope everyone enjoyed the national championship. Like I said in the beginning of the show, I hope you had a great Easter. Good times coming up. Pretty nice day. Got my window open for this pod this Tuesday morning. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoying this, watching this tonight on YouTube. But yeah, that's it for the show. Enjoy the Masters this week. Should be some good, exciting golf. My prediction, I think John Rahm gets it done. I'm gonna go with John Rahm winning it, but JERRY1 Golf, is that in store? I don't know, but I just want to say thanks for watching, and thank you, Blake, for coming on. It was good to talk to you. Great conversation that we had last night. So, I wish the best of luck for you down the line, both in basketball playoffs and the baseball season. Long baseball season we got ahead of us. And I want to thank everyone for playing in the JERRY1 2021 ESPN Tournament Challenge. Thank you to the 71 people that played. I appreciate it. We're going to try to get more next year. Yeah, good luck everyone in the basketball and hockey semifinals, and good luck everyone in the rest of week 1 in fantasy baseball. So that's it. Thank you, Blake, for coming on. I've been Nick Felice. Set your lineup, and we'll see you on the next JERRY1 Fantasy Sports podcast. Goodbye.